You will be aware that the leaders of Wandsworth and Richmond Councils announced on Friday the intention to create a shared staffing structure. The leader of the council would now like to make a statement on this, which will be followed by a statement by the leader of the opposition.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, on a point of order. I'm sure you didn't mean to forget that one of our councillors has recently had a babe, but Councillor Claire Sallier has, and I'm sure the council would all want to join us in congratulating her and wishing her well.
Indeed. May we all congratulate Councillor Govinda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for this opportunity to make a statement on what is, I think, the most important development since the creation of this borough 50 years ago. 50 years ago, two metropolitan boroughs were melded together into one, whereas on this occasion we are talking about two boroughs, but not quite creating a separate identity at all. So last Friday's announcement by Wandsworth and Richmond was a commitment to setting up a shared staffing structure across departments that are common to both councils. The announcement very clearly identified where the two councils want to get to, and over the next few months we will make steady and determined progress towards our shared goal. Mr. Mayor, I hope the members will not be running away with the idea that every detail has been resolved and that behind this announcement there is a whole series of agreements that are yet to emerge. In fact, this is a statement of intent about a relationship that we know where we want to take it to. None of the details that people might expect has been agreed, but when it will be agreed, papers will be submitted to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee and subsequently to the full Council for its consideration. The shared staffing structure will deliver an exceptional level of shared services at a scale no other London borough or indeed a local authority outside has attempted. Those familiar with the tri-borough and the bi-borough arrangement will know that whilst they share a range of services, what they share is not as extensive as what we propose between ourselves and Richmond. The nearest parallel to our model could be that of Hammersmith and Fulham, but there, of course, members will know that the foundations of their arrangements were laid down by the previous Conservative administration, and in fact they have now moved away from sharing their chief executive and moved on to appoint one. The proposed shared staff structure will be headed by a single chief executive leading a single team of directors across two authorities. And this is a structure that no other local authority has proposed, let alone followed. It has been made possible for us to go down the road very quickly of a single chief executive because of the retirement or impending retirement of the chief executive at Richmond. And that is paralleled by a similar arrangement regarding the post of Director of Finance. These two key posts in both authorities will lead the start of the merger of staff teams and management teams across the two councils. Since 2010, we have taken bold and imaginative steps to reduce our costs and protect frontline services. We have delivered savings in excess of 90 million, and this has been achieved by doing more of what we do best, through effective procurement, market testing more and more of our services, reducing our staff, senior management by a third, reducing our office footprint, and by being innovative in support of our staff-led mutual. The Wandsworth staff-led mutual for leisure, amenities and cultural services will be a staff mutual across a very wide range of services which no other mutual can yet match. We have shared services with other boroughs on a service-by-service basis, and some members may want to ask why we didn't follow that with greater vigour. But the truth is that whilst this service-by-service shared service arrangement does make a significant contribution to reducing our costs, it will not deliver the kind of savings on a scale that we are likely to need. The pressures on local government finance will continue to remain whatever happens in May this year. And in Wandsworth, we have always been a council that looks ahead and prepares for what happens rather than be crushed by what we haven't prepared for. The proposed new arrangement should very easily deliver savings of up to £10 million a year for each of the councils. And in the longer term, there is scope, as the relationship between the two boroughs deepens, for greater savings through better procurement and greater economies of scale. We have committed ourselves to an effective and an efficient business arrangement with in which each council will remain sovereign. So what does that mean? Mr. Mayor, Wandsworth will remain Wandsworth and Richmond will remain Richmond. We will each have our own constitutions, our own boundaries, our own elections and our own councillors as we do now. We have no plans to change the way we make decisions or the way we overview and scrutinise those decisions. We will continue to set our own council tax and our own budgets. We will have our own policies and priorities, and we will retain the independence. Critically, we will retain that independence even to criticise each other if to do so is in the best interest of our residents. We are two very distinctive and different boroughs, and that is not going to change. Incidentally, one commitment that I think both leaders have had to make to each other, really, is that we would also be pledged to keeping our respective opposition parties in our own borders. So Richmond will have no red mists and we no yellow peril here. What I have said, what we are going to do, but let me also say what we are not doing. This is not a merger to forge a new identity. This is not a takeover of one authority by another. What we are engaged in is a partnership and not a predatory relationship. There is no question of a common tax level across the two councils. And nor is there a plan to have a common suite of political and other policies. There will not be a common organisation of whatever sort, whether for political or other purposes. However, there will be scope for learning from each other. Both councils are different and both have strengths and weaknesses, I suspect, but as members and officers get together, that closer relationship will spark some new ideas to hopefully the mutual advantage of both councils. Mr. Mayor, if I may just turn to one or two comments that have been made since the announcement. Most of the comments have been supportive. Some of them have been quite curious about wanting to know more, and quite rightly so, because this is a momentous announcement as far as the two authorities are concerned, and clearly the residents in two boroughs want to know more of the details, which they, of course, will in no doubt, in due time. But there have been some really daft comments, so I just want to deal with some of those. There's concerns about the stamina, loyalties, and abilities of our officers. And I have to say that I have complete confidence that they have the resolve, the ability, and the professionalism to carry on the negotiations and subsequently the combined staff team across both boroughs. There will be no extra money for officers because the key objective of this arrangement is to reduce costs. And so the idea that there would be wholesale upward review of staff salaries is a daft one, to be sure. There was a suggestion that we should make an arrangement with Merton simply because we have the longest border with them. Personally, I think close relationships need a little more and something deeper than a joint seat in London Assembly and a large, long boundary. Crucially, one need to ask, are these the people you want to really work with? Well, in case of Wandsworth and Richmond, I think the answer is yes. We both have a meeting of minds. We share values, goals, and cultures, and above all, we share political values. A colleague also drew my attention to a really very odd comment, which was that Wandsworth is too late, whereas other councils are already doing it, and that we are late for a party. Well, frankly, we are not late for a party because we are organising our own party here. When discussing these proposals with colleagues on this side, Mr. Mayor, a couple of colleagues who meld institutions together in their day job said how important it was to bring two cultures of two organisations together to create a common new culture. I believe we have a strong set of common values between the two boroughs, which is a good basis to start from. I think on top of that, both certainly myself and Councillor Lord True have known each other for a very long time and have the confidence in each other and trust and faith in each other, which I think is very, very important as this relationship goes forward. Mr. Mayor, what we have commenced will transform the way the two boroughs are managed. We will cut costs so that we can better safeguard the key frontline services to our residents. Much that people will immediately see in either boroughs will not change, but much more that they don't see will alter to the net advantage of both councils.
Well, thank you, Councillor. Councillor.
I thank the leader for his statement this evening, and I would like to just add a few comments from the opposition side on this matter. First, it should be noted that the Labour opposition on this council has for many years called for closer working relationships with other local authorities, and indeed mocked Wandsworth's leadership for being the wallflower at the disco. Finally, in Richmond, there is a partner with whom to dance. We regret this has been slow in coming, but at least we can avoid the mistakes that those ahead of us might have made. We regret that more obvious candidates for partnership than Richmond are not in this arrangement, not yet anyway. A project which reduces council spending to the benefit of the people of Wandsworth must be recognised by all sides as a significant step in the right direction, especially at a time of government cuts to local government grants. But as Labour's Independent Commission on Wandsworth Council Finances reported in spring 2014, great financial benefit comes from large-scale joint commissioning of services. And surely that can only happen if the arrangement with Richmond evolves into one involving more boroughs. We welcome the savings heralded by this move and call for those savings to be used to deal with some urgent cases. It's time, for example, for this council to deal with some refuse black spots and embrace the London living wage. We recognise that this is a very early stage in a long and complex process, within which there are still, inevitably, many unanswered questions. But some questions must be posed soon and answered soon. If senior staff are appointed jointly by the two boroughs, where is the transparency in staff appointments, and where has it been so far? If some decisions are taken at a level higher than the borough boundary, how do the real bosses, the voters, come to own these increasingly remote decisions? If shared staff ever means shared departments, then to whom are the officers in those departments politically accountable, and how are they politically accountable? And at a time when devolution to local government and when combined authorities are in vogue outside London, where is all this leading Wandsworth? And indeed, where do we want to go? These are not the only questions. But the best way to resolve such matters is in public, with those of different views and those who offer different perspectives. I end the statement from the opposition by saying this: by inviting the Leader of the Council to consider the creation of a broad body, including the opposition and even those outside the Council, to review these matters of administration and political scrutiny. I do not look for an answer this evening, but I shall write to the leader in the coming weeks. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Osborne. I think, as councillors will be aware, there will be a major debate at the next council meeting on this very subject. I have, however, received a request in writing from Councillor Grimston. I'm minded to accept that, so I'd like to invite Councillor Grimston to give a short contribution on the issue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the opportunity to do this. Firstly, I'd say that I welcome this move in principle. As colleagues will know, for some time I've felt there are opportunities here, and I don't criticise the leadership at all for taking its time over finding a partner. I have to say, I was a little surprised that the partner that emerged was Richmond. One of the many questions that does fascinate me is, since Richmond and Kingston had gone quite a long way down this road, and that seems to have fallen apart relatively recently, why did that fall apart? What implications does that have for where we are at the moment? Having said that, I would say that I was somewhat concerned that the first that I officially heard of this, certainly, was when I read the Wandsworth Guardian last Thursday. And the leader's statement in the question and answer session there didn't actually mention the word councillor once and showed no real indication that this was an issue where members have an angle. The implication was this is simply a managerial issue. Actually, that's not the case. I've worked with a number, there are a lot of authorities out there that have been down this road now, perhaps 15 or 20 examples of shared chief executive and senior management teams. Unless Councillor Crivelli might be a bit worried about this, Great Yarmouth is not one of them, so no concerns from that point of view. But actually, there are a number of issues that do affect members. It sounded from the leader's statement that the decision on scrutiny has already been taken, but some authorities have moved down the road of joint scrutiny, taking a view that having two separate sets of scrutiny to the same... I'm sorry, I was very stupid. I can't see the difference between saying that something will remain and saying the decision has been taken that something will remain. Because my suggestion is that let's go and just have a look at those areas where a degree of joint scrutiny of what is, after all, a single managerial organisation that we're moving towards might be something that's worth considering. Certainly, it does affect our job as members for the fact that our senior officers will only be in the building for half of the week. I'm not sure how that would affect things, because, but certainly there have been examples out there where that has been a cause of friction. And as Councillor Osborne said, the type of organisation that we want to create will depend upon our vision for the future, and inevitably those visions are going to be rather different for the richest local authority in the country and an authority like Wandsworth, which, despite our successes over the course of the last decades, is still an inner London borough with many inner London challenges. And all this is happening at a time when our new managerial structure here has not yet really had an opportunity to bed down, and we as members have not got the hang of how we help the organisation to develop when the amount of time we're spending on scrutiny has been sliced so significantly. So the ones I have most experience of is Redditch Bromsgrove, which has worked extremely well, but also Havant and East Hampshire, which has not. And frankly has not delivered anything like the savings which were claimed for it. And the last time I was in contact with them, the members of one of those two authorities were pretty close to open revolt and talking about dissolving the partnership. There's also a very interesting case in Vale of White Horse in South Oxfordshire, where one of the authorities has changed political control quite early into the issue, which is also of interest. It does seem to me that when there is evidence out there of what contributes to success of these sorts of arrangements and what contributes to lack of success, we would be seriously letting down our residents if we didn't spend a considerable period of time, probably in a joint committee with our colleagues in Richmond, of going out and talking to those authorities which have made it work and which have not made it work, and learning what experience there is that we can apply to our organisation here. And that does, I'm afraid, involve members in a way that I haven't really heard as yet is central to the development. I know we had the discussions at the council meeting before last, which to the untutored ear might have given the impression that the leadership has an absolute contempt for scrutiny in this organisation, and particularly is, and I say to the untutored external ear, I'm certainly not saying I felt that,
Councillor Grimson, would you be kind enough to draw your remarks to a close?
Indeed, and that in particular, talking to other authorities who
I spoke, Councillor Grimson. Would you be kind enough to draw your remarks to a close?
Yes, I was doing so, Mr Mayor, thank you. And so I'd just say, you know, you can keep the rest of us out of this discussion. I hope you won't, and in particular that we can use scrutiny to learn lessons that others have gone through to make sure that this is the success that it could be.
Thank you.